Okay, so this hour is all about analytics, and I would also call it the Orla hour because you know Orla, she works in the analytics space, so that's I can relax, I can lean back here and really have Orla running the show for the next hour. So it's great to have someone who knows everything about analytics on the side here. And I totally can see the excitement on your face, especially now. And now let's do it a little bit different. I have some questions for you. So first question, what excites you about analytics?
I just think it's the constant change. I mean, I've been working in analytics for over 10 years now, dating myself yet again. And I started out originally with BW, and then we started working into things like business objects mobile. Then we were also looking at different things like machine learning, planning, and HANA, all these different things came along. So it's constantly evolving. And then I had the opportunity a few years ago to move into the development side of the house and really work with the developers on, the new products, how we were going to define them, how are they going to move, and to have the ability to influence was just super exciting.
So that was my first question. Next one, how did you get started with analytics?
Well, that's actually interesting because I started my career with ERP. So ERP was the main topic that I was working on. I think a bit of finance, a bit of supply chain, and then an opportunity arose. I was an SAP customer at the time, and that was to look into taking over the BI department. So at the time, it was just 2 BW systems, one for finance, one for HR. But because things were changing so much, we moved on with business objects mobile, HANA, and it just was really incredibly exciting time. And then, as I mentioned, I got the chance to be a developer, or come back to the development team, so that was super exciting for me to do.
And now you drive a lot of stuff on the analytics side, and we will see a lot of your colleagues coming in here. Your boss will coming in.
So be on my best behavior.
You're nervous?
No, not at all.
No,
Looking forward to seeing him.
Good. Now, so we have a very packed agenda, definitely, for the hour. Want to go deep into analytics. And so what we do is we go into an expert interview. And that's where we have Matthias Kraemer coming up, and Orla is running the show. She will do the interview. There's nobody better. The next topic is then we're going into a demo. Demo about SAP Analytics Cloud, and really A to Z, end to end. That's the promise of the demo. So you will see it all. And it was also reviewed by Orla, so all good there. Finally, there is also, not finally, there is a customer story, EquiRatings coming up. They've done some really cool stuff also with SAP Analytics Cloud and also around the Tokyo Olympics. So pay attention to this one. Last but not least, expert Q&A. So we will have Orla's manager, Orla's friends, Orla's company coming in and telling us more about all the questions, helping us answering the questions. What are you coming in? That's also the friendly reminder. If you have any questions, if something comes up, put it into the Q&A tool on channel 1, on the TechEd side, and that's for us to answer them. So with that, I would say, let's roll into the expert Q&A, not expert Q&A, interview with Matthias Kraemer.
Excellent. So I'm delighted to welcome Matthias Kraemer, who's head of SAP HANA Database and Analytics for Planning and Analytics. So welcome, Matthias. So great to have you here.
Yeah, thanks, Orla. Thanks for having me. And before we start, a big thank you to you. I watched this channel now since an hour and longer. Orla, Thomas, you do a great job. And appreciate to be here for that 50 minutes interview.
Oh, excellent. And Matthias, we're absolutely delighted to have you here. But we have got some good questions for you, so let's dive straight in. First off, one of the topics we often hear a lot of the time is, why is SAP combining planning and analytics?
Yeah, thanks for the question. Why we are combining planning and analytics? I would say SAP is one of the few ones who are doing that in one product. And I think it makes so much sense to do that. If you are looking at typical business use cases, we see, of course, a lot of analytics. You need that to create your dashboards, your enterprise reporting, your ad hoc analysis. But if you do so, you're always working on data which is already old. It's actual data. It's the data of the moment or maybe of the past. And you are using all these insights to understand what happened and maybe why it happened. Yeah? So you can look more or less into a mirror of a car and you see the past and you understand the past. If you just look at planning, in planning, we are trying to plan the next wave of our business. We are planning the budget. We are creating forecasts. We are creating a strategic plan. And with that, we are shaping, or we are trying to shape the future. But as soon as you did that, you also then need to report that data again, the plan data, with your actual data. You need to build variances. You want to see where you are based on your actuals and maybe your budget and your plan. And for that, you need everything in one product. It makes no sense if you change the product from dashboarding to reporting or from planning back to reporting. And that's why it's so essential that these two capabilities are coming out of one product, out of one security layer, out of one modeling environment, deeply connected to the SAP ecosystem, of course. And that's what we built with SAP Analytics Cloud.
No, excellent. And I think, you know, for hearing from all the different market forces out there, this is something that really truly differentiates SAP in this particular space. So I think, you know, a little bit ahead of the game in this, but we haven't rested on our laurels, I would say. And one of the key topics in the last 12 months has not only been bringing planning and BI together, but also bringing together predictive. It's been a big year for predictive within the overall platform. Maybe you can touch a little bit on that.
It was, Ola. Yeah. So the third pillar in our offering is predictive. So not only that we have reporting and analytics capabilities together with planning, we are also combining that with predictive, out of the box, in the product, ready to use, very easy, without being a data scientist. So you can at any time use our predictive algorithms even on top of a line chart, yeah, by just right-click using the predictive algorithms, and then we are already predict, say, the next quarter or the next 6 months, whatever you want to do here. And I give you a great example why this is so important. So one of the key topics in planning at the moment is to be faster, to be more agile. And to do so, you want to automate your planning processes as much as possible. And to automate these processes, you need help from the system. And the help for these planning cases is to use predictive algorithms directly in the product. I can share a good use case. It's one of our customers out of Switzerland, Roche, and they are nowadays creating a 4 billion forecast in the system, completely automated in 2 hours. And this seems long, 2 hours, but in the past, they had a dozen of people working for weeks to create that 4 billion forecast. And of course, we checked the results from the manual process and our predictive process, and the variance of the data set on a 4 billion forecast is only 0.2%. Yeah, and this is one example where we see a lot of, say, speed, agility in the processes around planning and analytics.
Absolutely, and I had the pleasure of meeting the Roche team and interviewing them at Sapphire this year. It truly is a game-changing technology, and also the fact that it's put in the hands of financial planners who, you know, don't necessarily need to have that background in data science. So truly, really interesting use case. I think if people want to learn more, there's definitely information on our community side about that as well. But one of the other key, we talked about the platform a lot the capabilities the platform does have, but one of the big goals we've had over the past couple of years is not just having Analytics Cloud standalone, but also embedding it in a number of our line of business applications. Can you tell us how that is going at the moment?
Yeah, I can share some light here. Yeah, you're completely right. So we are not only offering SAP Analytics Cloud as a standalone product as part of the BTP, we are also, since I guess 2.5 years, we are deeply embedding SAP Analytics into our LOB applications. So if you are owning S4, if you have SuccessFactors, if you are working with Ariba, then SAP Analytics Cloud is already the reporting and analytics solution for these products from SAP. So it's deeply integrated, and if you have the same capabilities, it's connected in S4, for example, to the S4 database. The same is true for SuccessFactors, and we are enhancing that. So at the end of the day, in each SAP application, there will be SAP Analytics Cloud Analytics deeply integrated so that you can use it out of the box, and then scale up to planning if you want, scale up to predictive, and do even cross analytics with the product. The good thing is here that a user is not needed to learn a new tool. Yeah? So you're using SAC out of the box. And most of our S4 customers maybe don't know that they are using SAC on a daily basis when they look at their reports, but it's generated from our product.
Yeah, I think this is truly powerful. You know, when we really talk about going from insight to action, you know, they take a look at the dashboard, the story, they see the item they need to take action on, and they don't leave the system. They go straight into whatever cockpit they need to go to, and they make that action, which I think, again, is super powerful. Maybe a slightly more challenging question that we often hear. Maybe over the last year or so, we may have heard about some performance issues with the Analytics Cloud platform. I know there's been a lot going on behind the scenes to address this.
Yeah, definitely, yes. So we are working on multiple levels to improve the performance. And yeah, so I would not call it performance issues, I call it performance challenges. And let me explore that a little bit. So it heavily depends, of course, on the end-to-end performance at the end of the day. You can build complex dashboards with complex back-end queries, querying a whole huge data set. And here, of course, we experienced here and there maybe slower performance. We are addressing that, as I said, on multiple areas. First of all, we are working on performance improvements on the browser. So whatever the user sees on the PC, on the laptop, what's running in the browser will be optimized. We have a long-running project which is coming to an end in Q1 next year, where we are optimizing the filters, the story loading, the generation of the charts and everything the customer sees. So there we are expecting a lot of improvements, also then working with filters and the different components we have in the product. Second, we are also working, of course, on the backend. So we are moving from HANA 1 to HANA 2 at the moment to HANA Cloud, which gives us also then the latest technology on the backend and improving, of course, the query performance and all the tools we have coming from HANA Cloud and so forth. And then last but not least, we are also working on our engines, and a few of these topics are already in the product. So we just released a feature we called planning areas. So whenever a customer starts the planning process, we shorten the space of the area where the plan data sits, which improves the performance. On the front end, we will introduce a feature called fluid data entry, which gives you data entry speed like in Excel. Yeah? So you don't need to wait on the system anymore. And this all together at the end will definitely help to improve the performance and the perceived speed of the application overall.
Yeah, and I think we've already seen a lot of them being delivered throughout this year in 2021, quarter by quarter. There's been some amazing progress made as well. I was at TechEd 2 years ago in person, and we did a lot of hands-on workshops, and people really loved the experience of building the dashboards, but often can feel a little bit, they don't know where to start. So we've been planning a lot on providing content to our customers to help them get started. Can you tell us maybe a little bit about the journey for that?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, so you're completely right. So where do I start when you first time look at SAC? And content is a super place to do so. So I'm not sure if everybody knows that we are shipping more than 50 content packages just for planning. Overall, it's around about 80 content packs for different products, best practice templates, but also full solutions, for example, starting an HR planning process. And this content is available on our analytics content network, which is always available on every SAC instance. Yeah, so you can access that, you can explore the content, and by 1 or 2 clicks, you can then download and install that content on your tenant and connect that to your S4 system, to SuccessFactors or to non-SAP data sets, explore the models, explore the dashboards, and start from there. It's quite easy. I think it's quite fast. The content gets better and better over time. That's one thing how you can start. Second, we are offering a trial version. You can just get over our homepage. And if you register here with your email, you get a 30-day trial version, which also contains some of the content packages. So you can start right out of the box using that and work with that.
No, excellent. And I think Holger Handel has a great hands-on session a little bit later this week where he's going to show you exactly how you can unbox workforce planning, which is definitely one I would recommend people check out. Okay, so we're getting close to the top of the session. So finally, Matthias, maybe you can tell people what they can expect within SAP Analytics Cloud for 2022.
Yeah, so of course, we have a lot of innovations planned. First, I said that we are working on the performance improvements in the browser. This is coming in Q1. And then we have a full set of most wanted features. I know that a lot of customers are waiting for undo, redo in the design time environment. This is then finally also coming in Q1 next year. We are also working on a lot of cool planning enhancements. So a lot of these topics are on the roadmap. Overall, our strategy in the HANA database and analytics organization is to bring our product set closer together. You know, we have also Data Warehouse Cloud, we have HANA Cloud, we have Data Intelligence, and we are bringing these products closer together. And that makes, I think, a lot of sense because SAC is a great planning and analytics solution with predictive, but if you really want to use it in full enterprise scale, you need the data set in a very good shape. And for that, we have Data Warehouse Cloud. Yeah, you have there a great semantic layer. And of course, we want to deeply integrate SAC into Data Warehouse Cloud. Inside Data Warehouse Cloud, we also have then data intelligence, which can be used to connect to systems, to shape the data in the way you need it. And this then gives us more flexibility to also cover enterprise scenarios. So a lot of things are on the roadmap, and I'm looking forward to get that into the product in 2022.
Excellent, Matthias. That's some really exciting things to come. And thank you very much for joining us to give us your insights. It's been an absolute pleasure.
No, it's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, so we've heard about it, and now we're going to see it up close in detail. So we now introduce Max Gander, who's going to do an end-to-end demo.
Hi everybody, my name is Max Gander. I work in product management for SAP Analytics Cloud for Planning. And today I want to show you a demo of the unified capabilities for BI, predictive and planning in SAP Analytics Cloud that enable you to take control of your own company's destiny by simulating future business outcomes after assessing a situation, and finally you can decide on a plan for your company's future. So in this demo, I'm going to be the CFO of the bike manufacturer Best Run Bikes, and I'm starting my day looking into my inbox. And what I find there is a data alert that is sent to me by the system SAP Analytics Cloud. And what I see is that across our product line, overall customer satisfaction has decreased, in some cases quite significantly. Of course, I want to find out more about it as I'm very concerned about our customer sentiments. So what I can do next is open the analytics application. I'm starting on a dashboard that gives me details about the market development and customer sentiments. The first thing that I see is that in the last 2 years, between 2019 and 2020, the market has grown substantially, year over year, more than 20%. We assume this is because of the global pandemic, the boom of the e-bikes, etc. Also in the past years, we have a compound annual growth rate of more than 7%. The dashboard is also giving me details about other key figures of the market. For example, the average time to delivery, which has increased significantly year over year, as per the year-to-date actuals, and the demand satisfaction rate. And this is telling me that some customers ordered a bike and didn't even get it at all. Also, the system has generated predictive forecast for me, made by the predictive analytics capabilities that are built into the product out of the box. So we see that also in this year, we expect a high growth in the market. Next, we want to take a look at the customer sentiments. We see that the overall customer satisfaction has decreased significantly over the past 8 quarters. It started on a scale from 1 to 5, at almost 5, and it's gone down to below 3. We can relate this to the delivery times that are increasing, as we have seen, and we can also relate it to the value for money. As cost of goods sold explode with the higher demand, we also need to increase the prices of our bicycles, and all those factors are becoming relevant for the overall satisfaction. So we believe those are challenges that we should really tackle going forward. Also on this page, we have further unstructured information. For example, we have an RSS feed, which confirms to us that the market momentum is continuing, and we have comments that have been left by our colleagues. So now we can take a look at our own company situation in more detail. We switch to the company overview, and first thing we see is, like the total market, we're growing as well. We're doing great in terms of top line. Total revenue up year over year, and also the forecast is indicating that we will outperform on our budget in all products, in all regions. But the next thing, and that's a major challenge, is that our margins are not keeping up with the performance of our bottom line. Operating margin is down year over year. Gross margin is down by even 10 percentage points compared year over year as per our last forecast. We see that cost of goods sold are driving that. The ratio is increasing year over year, and also this has a significant impact on our operating margin. So now let's look at our internal workforce and the external workforce. We are above budget here, but this is okay for us. We need to keep everybody on board, bring in additional people in order to keep the capacities in the production lines up. In accordance with that, we also are above budget when it comes to personnel expenses. Furthermore, we have brought in external workforce for further catering the large demand that we are seeing in the market. We have an attrition rate of 8%, which is higher than budgeted. And of course, this is not helping us, and we need to overcome the situation when we do our planning for the next year's budget. In the next step, we want to get planning, and we can either enter directly a strategic scenario simulation, which is what we will take a look at next, but also we have the choice to go at a planning overview page that gives us a very nice overview above all the different planning steps that are involved. And this is what I want to show you next. So here we have a very nice overview. Power users have access to the maintenance of global parameters. We have all the different planning scenarios listed, and we can jump into the reports that we have just seen. We are now going into the strategic scenario simulation. So in the center of the screen, we see a value driver tree, which is a super visual way to simulate certain scenarios for our company. Furthermore, at the top of the screen, we have different charts representing our core KPIs, and we also have reference lines in there that indicate the targets that we want to achieve. Colleagues from controlling have already prepared a simulation baseline for us, so a version of the data that we can use as a basis for further simulation. We want to keep that unchanged and create own scenarios. That's the cool thing about SAP Analytics Cloud and analytics applications. So you can really guide your user through planning workflows that can be more complex, but it's very simple and easy to use intuitive experience. So we've created a copy based on the simulation baseline, called it My Scenario 1, and now we can start playing with the different parameters. For example, colleagues in controlling expect 10% growth in the years 2022, 2023. We say we can outperform this even, so we increase to 11%. And you see, as we do so on the fly, all the different charts, etc., are updating in real time. So what we've done is great to our top line, but of course we have to increase cost of goods sold accordingly. And we're not only doing that proportionally, but we're even adding further cost of goods sold because we believe that we must localize our supply chain to face those long delivery times. Of course, this is coming at a higher price, but we accept that. Okay, now we want to do something about our internal workforce, and we want to fight attrition. So we are increasing the incentives to our employees. Say we're going up to 110K per employee. And again, everything is updating in real time. We see that we are now missing our operating margin objective for 2023. We are missing our gross margin objective, but we have reached our revenue objective. So what else can we do about the operating margin? So we believe that we may not need all the marketing expenses that are currently inside this planning version. So we are cutting down on that because we believe that demand is anyway so high, we don't need to invest a lot into demand generation going forward. So we do that. And of course, as always, we directly see the impact on our operating margin. We see we don't meet the objectives 100%. So what we could do now is create additional scenarios with higher growth rates, for example. We could create additional scenarios with less employee incentives, etc. Once we are done with our simulation and we have a version that we want to decide for, we can confirm the data, that means publishing it and handing it over to controlling and everybody involved in making this now a top-down budgeting exercise. And the data will flow into the budgeting process, it will flow into cost of goods sold planning, into HR planning, and all the different kind of planning processes that we have to deal with within our company. Cross LOB, for us, this is now really the true power of extended planning and analysis. So to summarize, what we've seen today is how the unified capabilities for BI, predictive analytics, and planning and simulation can help you assess the situation of your own company, take control of it by simulating different future outcomes, and you can operationalize a plan. And with that, data will flow through all the different sub-processes, sales and cost of goods sold planning, for example, HR planning, and that is what we consider to be true extended planning and analysis. Thanks for watching.
Well, that was an excellent demo from Max. I think we can see some of the amazing capabilities in Analytics Cloud. So about 2 years ago at SAP Ireland's DCOM, I had the pleasure to meet Sam and Dermot from EquiRatings. They made quite an impression, and when I reconnected with them a couple of weeks ago to hear how their journey was progressing, they had very exciting things to tell us. So from the Tokyo Olympics to SAP Innovation Awards, they've certainly been very busy. So let's take a look at their journey. Eventing, an equestrian event where a single horse and rider combine to compete across 3 disciplines of dressage, cross-country and show jumping. Enter Sam Watson and Dermot Byrne, co-founders of EquiRatings. With their unique blend of technology, data science and equestrian experience, they are using SAP Analytics Cloud to bring actionable insights to the equine world. The EquiRating solutions, such as Prediction Center, are now being used by equestrian professionals all over the world, including this year's Tokyo 2020 Olympics, picking up a prestigious SAP Innovation Award along the way. Now we will learn more about EquiRatings' beginnings and their plans for the future. Hello and welcome everyone to our interview with EquiRatings. My name is Orla Cullen and I am a Solution Manager in the SAP Analytics Cloud team. And I am delighted today to be joined by Sam Watson and Dermot Byrne of EquiRatings. Hi guys, great to see you again.
Hi Orla.
So the last time I saw you guys was February 2020. So a lot has happened since then. We had a pandemic, we had postponement of Olympics, we had them on again, we had an SAP Innovation Award. So it's been a very busy time for you guys. But let's take a little bit of a step back into where it all began. So Sam, why don't you take us through how this all got started?
Yeah, thanks, Orla. It's an interesting one. I think a horse sport which has been around for centuries. It was a very traditional industry. I was someone competing in it. Derm loves to tell everyone how bad I was back in 2014. But there's a bit of truth to it. You know, I came out of my second World Games and it hadn't gone to plan. And I think in business and in sport, we talk a lot now about focusing on the process rather than focusing on your outcomes. But I'd had 2 bad outcomes And the problem was I was looking back at the 4-year gap in between, and there was no evidence of my process improving. There was because there was no metrics. There was no data in the sport. Quite rare now, I think. But there are a lot of things in the world that still lack a bit of data. And so I was the one who decided in equestrian sports to take a little bit of time out of the saddle and start measuring, start trying to quantify things like my clear jumping rates, my average scores, the kind of KPIs that have now, thankfully, 5 years later, become standard in the sport. But they allowed me to do the thing that I needed to do, which was show where I was. And at the time, in the show jumping part of my sport, like we have 3 phases, it is quite complex. But I was in the bottom 10% of professional athletes, basically, which for someone who is trying to win medals and get to Olympic Games, that's not very good. And I kind of had a hunch that I wasn't great. I knew I had a weakness, but knowing where I was, knowing I was in the bottom 10%, that allowed me to work on my training system at home, which I did. Being quite data and analytical, I made that very measurable as well. But within a year, I could see my metrics moving, and moving rapidly and significantly was the key thing. I was comparing myself against all the other professional athletes in the world. I could see myself getting out of that bottom 10%, becoming average, moving up into the top 25%. And actually 2 years later, in that show jumping phase, I had I had the best metric in the sport with regards to clear rounds at the top level. Like, that was massive for me. And it was massive validation that it could be done. At the next World Games 4 years on, so I had a disaster in 2010, disaster in 2014, 2018, a kind of romantic story for anyone who likes fairy tales. But I won a silver medal at the World Championships, something my dad had done, and he was the last Irish person to do it 40 years previously, back in 1978. So managed to have that kind of special moment walking back into Dublin Airport, seeing my dad there with his silver medal, which is way smaller than mine, by the way. But, it was cool. But that was all basically enabled and triggered by starting EquiRatings, starting the company that runs the data analytics in equestrian sport now.
That's an amazing story, and it's lovely to see it come through the family. But I mean, Dermot, how did we move this from being like all about Sam and improving Sam's performance to something that was much more scalable?
Yeah, so I mean, being really honest, and it's fun talking about the journey. When we began, we didn't even really think it. Like, I mean, everybody says when you're starting a business, like, be sure to build for scale, but it doesn't mean anything when the reality was, I was at the time when we started, it was just the 2 of us, and Sam had 2 babies under 2. I was sleeping on a mattress in a study in his house. So things like build for scale don't have any practical application. We spent probably the first 2 years of what we were doing in Excel, and it was able to do everything we needed to do in the short term. And actually, it got us really far. The whole idea of fake it till you make it, keep putting things out there. We identified world records and changed how the news was told simply by filtering in Excel. But it did eventually find its limitations, a single macro, and both of us had to work for an entire night. It meant we couldn't really hire, because you were trying to teach people another person's methods. So we began to implement SAP software in 2016, 2017. So we were 2-3 years into the business. And actually, we didn't really know all of the capabilities and all of the potential products and all of the potential solutions that it would bring 2, 3, 4 years later. So what that kind of idea of scalability began to mean was we could hire and we could train people outside of all of the kind of domain knowledge that was in Sam's mind. He could give that to the team. It also meant that everything we were doing in a real sense in the sport, which felt very new and felt very innovative, we knew behind the scenes that actually a lot of it was knowing how to write good if statements in Excel, knowing how to filter well, and knowing how to, I suppose, data mine. What we couldn't do, and it's a very real sense when you're dealing with an Olympic team, is we couldn't actually simulate what might happen if you were comparing it to another team. We couldn't even conceive of running a model. And these are the business. These are the kind of the products, I suppose, which and the processes which became possible for us over the next 2-3 years of the prediction journey. It came from looking at past performance. A very basic tool can do that if you've got good quality data. The next one came about predicting performance, and we began to simulate. And as we've gone through that journey now, 3, 4, 5 years in of working with Olympic teams, of people begin to understand our methods, now they're beginning to say, well, it's one thing to tell us what you're doing, but you're going to have to explain why that happens. What are the factors that drive it? And we're arriving now, having built the journey and all the building blocks along the way, we're now arriving at a time when tools like Smart Predict are actually able to help us explain what we're doing rather than simply saying what happens next.
Yeah, and Smart Predict, one of the key functions of that is the explainable AI. But Sam, how do you feel about Dermot, who's maybe new enough to the sport, explaining to the top equestrian professionals in the world why their teams or their horses or their athletes are performing as they are?
Yeah, that was interesting and terrifying in equal measures. So after a really intense year in 2015 of sleepless nights and writing macros and doing things like that, we went to one of the biggest events in the world in 2016, armed with our laptop. And I sat Derm in the stands and I said, right, just start putting this out on Twitter, all these stats about horses and things like that. And I went off to ride my horse at this biggest, it's called Badminton Horse Trials. There's 200,000 people arrive on foot. It's one of the biggest spectator events in the world. And they're all walking around with earpieces as well. And next thing, I am warming up and I see him walking around beside Claire Boulding, who's sort of, the lead presenter for BBC. He's been in the commentary box on people's ears, I knew that Derm has never sat on a horse and that he's, kind of new to eventing, but it was cool. It was cool and terrifying. He was giving these insights that were changing how people were thinking about it. Clearly people craved it. We live in a kind of an information age now. And off the back of that, we had probably the biggest team manager in the sport ringing us up saying, what you guys are doing, we want that for the upcoming Olympics. Like, this was 2016, the Olympic Games were coming up. We had the global governing of the sport getting in touch with us saying there's got to be uses for this, and there are. We've been working with them for 5 or 6 years now as well. So it was terrifying, and but it just that's how it took off. I mean, we were kind of brave. We just said, get out there, get in the stands, put the information out there, and it just snowballed.
Yeah, but clearly he's touched a nerve. People immediately responded from what you're telling me to what they were seeing. So, I mean, give me the picture today. Who is using the system or the solution? Who's logging on? Maybe, Jeremy, you can talk about that one.
I think it's been, one of the things Sam's touching on there is, the fact that I've never sat on a horse and known nothing about equestrian sports. And now we find ourselves managing Olympic teams, working with the global governing body, working with major brands, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But the bit that resonated for me with that is not just the fact that it was a missing offering for the sport. It also is the fact that a lot of what we were doing is usable. It's actually, it's more than just a showcase. I suppose, were really keen as a startup and really hard on ourselves that we really wanted to make sure that whatever we were building, it was being used. It was of value to somebody. And if we could make it of value, they'd pay us. And if we could get paid for it, maybe we'd be able to build a business. So today, I suppose, when you go back all those years, six years ago, two of us on Excel in pretty much a shed, we got to Tokyo 2020 and Sam's saying, I used to say he wasn't that good at the sport. He's good at the sport. We're talking about world games. He wasn't as good as some of the people winning the world medals, but we're talking within a high performance here. But he's going back. He becomes an Olympian for the first time, which, as you know, his best friend is something that me and our team and all his family are all so proud of him. And then I look at what we've achieved, and I think at Tokyo 2020, we had started there, and suddenly we had at the pyramid, the very top of the sport, the global governing body using our predictive software, our predictive tools, SAP predictive tools, to be able to govern risk management all around the world. Every time a horse enters an event in any country in the world, our risk management metric, measuring past performance, that is helping them assess whether they're fit to compete at this level of competition. We go down a level, we had 10 Olympic teams at Tokyo all logging in all the time, managers' tactics, new formats changing. I need that information immediately. We had all of the major brands of the sport looking to communicate, to connect with their fans in different ways. And we had spent the pandemic, basically we used the simulation that was available to us, but also we had built kind of fan engagement games, which were due to be launched for live competition. And when live competition didn't exist, we were able to simulate competition. So we had the kind of fan level, we had the brand level, and at that brand level, all of the brands were using kind of experience management software and Qualtrics to be able to communicate with the fans and do surveys and find out what was happening. So what's exciting for us now is that it's being used and it's embedded. SAP technology is now embedded across equestrian sports in a way that we thought at the beginning might be a showcase and actually has ended up, to be honest, really running equestrian sports.
Which is amazing. I mean, we hear a lot of these prototypes for, one-off teams or one-off sports organizations, but to see this really take hold in the sport, I think is really powerful. But what do you think it is about the solution that makes people trust in your predictions or trust in your assessments, Sam?
Yeah, that's been our big breakthrough now in the last couple of years is, we created all these KPIs, brings the accountability, great for managing performance. But now, I mean, you hear the phrase horses for courses. With Smart Predict, you're seeing what KPIs, what attributes and what metrics matter and matter most. That's the other thing. So you're saying, okay, which horses are we going to compete, pick for different competitions? Where are their strengths and weaknesses going to be, strongest and most effective? Because that's what you've got to see. You've got to see, what should I be focusing on most? We all know, again, business, sport, we can't do it all. We can't improve everything. So where do I need to focus on most? And Smart Predict is helping to guide that. And a lot of the intuition that's been there in the sport for a long time, how much experience should a horse have? We've got to balance, doing a lot with our horses before an Olympic Games versus having them fresh. So do they need experience? Do they need to be fresh? How much experience should they have in that 6-month window beforehand? And again, you're able to see that. You're able to see the emphasis that a model like is putting on recent form. And it's driving. I think the managers will trust it more because you know that everything matters. You know that your ice bath matters. You know that your feed, your flights, your sleep, you know that all of these things matter, but how much do they matter? Let's try and quantify it. Let's try and prioritize it. That is changing the game for sure. And that's really, I think people are starting to lean on us more and more, which is cool. And they're doing it because it's effective and it's really, the results are kind of starting to pay off as well.
Well, it's an amazing story. As I said, I met you guys a little under 2 years ago, and so much has happened since then. It's such a great story. But what's next for EquiRatings? What do you think is going to come up for you guys in the future?
Well, I mean, I know my background is in eventing, but the world of show jumping, it's a massive global sport. And again, I think I love eventing. It's got 3 phases. It's really quite complicated. It's perfect for what we've been doing. But the same is there in show jumping. It's really lacking that level of analytics. I mean, I look at everything now. I look at the way people talk about horses, and it's so feel based. It's so subjective. But I'm still thinking if you are buying horse because he's good looking or she's got great technique, you've got to start scoring this and measuring it, because then you can actually see if you're a good judge or not. So I mean, I'm gonna probably, I don't know what the people will be calling me, but I just do want to measure everything because I think it's possible, and all of these other sports as well, because it really does help people focus on what matters, on what they're trying to do, assess whether they're actually good at their job, if they're good at buying horses, if they're good at training horses, if their process is working. So yeah, show jumping, racing, look out, we're coming.
Excellent. So it would be amazing to see if this can translate into other sports in the future, which was great. So that was fantastic. Thank you so much, both Sam and Dermot. It was great to have you guys on. It's such an incredible story. I know the people watching are really going to enjoy it. I'm looking forward to speaking to you in the future and seeing what EquiRatings will do next.
Thanks, Orla.
Thanks, Orla.
Well, what an incredibly inspiring story. I was delighted to connect with the guys again. It never fails to impress me what they've achieved in such a short period of time. But now we're moving to the expert Q&A portion of our hour. So be sure to get your questions in because we have two great experts here with us today. First up, we have Kristian Ruemmelin, who's Head of Product Management for Planning and Analytics. And then we have my boss, who's Iver van de Zand, who's Vice President for Strategy and Solution Management for Planning and Analytics. So welcome, Iver. Welcome, Kristian.
Hello, Orla.
Hello,
Hey, Thomas.
Hello, and good to have you here on Channel 1 at TechEd 2021. So while Orla is pulling out some questions from the audience, I looked it already up and I have two for you. So first one, I think it's more for Eva. It's about embedded SAP Analytics Cloud. You spoke in the past, it's more a journey. Where are we on this journey? What's the latest status?
Yeah, thanks, Thomas. And I think Matthias already spoke a little bit about it. Embedding Analytics Cloud in our core applications is very important for us. We are on the journey and we got very far already. Yeah, so most of the core applications have Analytics Cloud embedded. Think about S/4HANA Cloud, for example, Fieldglass, Success Factors, Ariba's demand. That is all in place. But there's still some pieces to do. So we will very soon launch also Ariba from the supplier perspective. And planning for Concur next year. So that is one portion, Thomas, that we're working on. Next, of course, especially when the users of embedded analytics want to use analytics across various LOB applications, Analytics Cloud Enterprise comes into play. So that means that you need to have the ability to connect to those core applications, which we can perfectly do today. But we want to invest a little bit more in making some of those connections also live. Yeah, so that is a second area, Thomas, that we are working on. And then I think if you really look into 2022, then a big investment area for us is business content for cross LOB applications. So think about a use case like spend, for example, where you want to use analytics to access multiple core applications, maybe even using Data Warehouse Cloud in combination. Well, for that, we want and we will deliver pre-built content. And that is an investment area, Thomas, that we are working on for 2022. So that's a bit the journey in a summary.
Okay, perfect. In the past year, you worked a lot on integrating predictive into the planning area. What were the drivers for that one? I think maybe, Kristian, if you can pick up that question.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for the great question. The combination of BI, planning, and predictive is getting more and more key now going forward. So it's all about speed to populate new planning and forecasting scenarios. And therefore, we can leverage the power of predictive analytics. We can create automated forecast in a very short amount of time as a planning proposition, and then maybe adjust this data to create a new scenario, a new plan going forward. And this is why the combination of BI, planning, and predictive is one of our strategic investment areas.
That's excellent. And we know it's something that's been extremely popular. I think we talked a little bit earlier about the Roche use case, which was really well received. So another one we just touched upon, we've been speaking with EquiRatings about how they're building these simulation tools and really focusing on the power, of explainable AI. So we want to bring augmented features to our users, but we want to do it in a way that's, something they can consume. So maybe, Iver, you can touch a little bit on what we're doing around simulation, explainable AI, some of those topics.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Orla. Yeah, so that is indeed, we are touching the area of what we call sometimes augmentation, yeah, where we guide users to find the right insight at the moment they need that. And that is where we use the machine learning for. Today in Analytics Cloud, we already ship a ton of those algorithms. Yeah? Most of them are time series forecasting, but also think about correlation algorithms and decision tree algorithms. If we look in 2022, then we even bring those algorithms to the next level and make them really tangible. So think about predictive planning. I think Kristian and Matthias already touched upon it. That is really tangible outcome. We really predict certain quarters or month or time frames. But we're also going to bring that to things like what-if analysis. Super important. Everybody wants to compare a certain section with another section. What happens if I change this? And that is an area, Orla, where we really invest in and where the audience of this session can expect quite a number of things to happen from our side.
Perfect. Orla and I had earlier a session with the Data Warehouse Cloud. And of course, in that session, but also the questions we got from the audience, there was a lot. Data Warehouse Cloud, SAP Analytics Cloud. Can you explain it a little bit more? It looks like there's a new power couple building here.
Yes, I can take that one. So Data Warehouse Cloud is our data warehousing solution going forward in the cloud, along with SAP Analytics Cloud. The combination of those two products is key for us. So we want to achieve a very seamless integration between Data Warehouse Cloud, where I can do all the data management, my ETL processes, the semantics of big data sets, along with the strong analytics capabilities, BI, planning, and predictive that SAP Analytics Cloud provides. From a roadmap perspective, we are planning for a two-phased approach. In the first half of 2022, we plan to ship a first integration between SAP Analytics Cloud and Data Warehouse Cloud for planning, so that we can exchange data between Data Warehouse Cloud and SAP Analytics Cloud bidirectional, but based on a replication-based approach. In the second half of 2022, we also plan to have a replication-free planning approach with the integration of SAC and DWC. So if you plan data in SAC, it will be directly saved into Data Warehouse Cloud. And of course, for BI use cases, you can use SAP Analytics Cloud on top of Data Warehouse Cloud already today.
No, excellent. And I think that's going to be a very happy topic for a lot of our customers. We see a lot of use cases where it's not just SAC by itself, but SAC in conjunction with DWC as well. So another one here, I think we get this one quite often. It might be for you again, Kristian, but how will Analytics Cloud take on or over the consolidation or BPC functionality? Is there plans to do that, or where is that on the roadmap?
Yeah, so in the past, in the history of SAP, consolidation resided in different places, sometimes in the ERP, sometimes in the analytics space. With BPC, it was in the analytics space. The strategy from SAP going forward is to integrate consolidation capabilities inside SAP S/4HANA, which is the group reporting component. That's the strategic way forward. And of course, as we integrate also with Data Warehouse Cloud from an SAP Analytics Cloud perspective, we're also integrating with group reporting to have a seamless integration to also consume consolidated data directly inside SAP Analytics Cloud, or to write back plan data on a legal entity level directly into group reporting, so that I can also do a plan consolidation there.
Excellent. That sounds like a great answer, and something we get asked a lot, as you probably know, Kristian. So one of the topics we might just jump into, and it was a big topic, I think, in the last 12 months, was around the area of the analytics catalog. Not only are we using it to help our users, manage all of the data, all of the reports, but also we're looking at that on our mobile device. Maybe, Iver, you can take us through the strategy there.
Yeah, I think thank you, Orla. Yeah, so if we circle back a little bit and we look at the journey of Analytics Catalog, it basically goes in, I would say, 4 phases. So we launched Analytics Catalog 2 years ago, and we shipped that with a product allowing our customers to publish Analytics Cloud artifacts into that central analytics catalog portal. And I think in the next step, we really brought it into a level where the artifacts that you put on that catalog are not limited to Analytics Cloud anymore. It can be, for example, business objects artifacts or even third-party artifacts. And that is for end users super important because they don't care what product is used to create their dashboard. They want to consume the dashboards and trust them. So that second phase really answered to that transparency to whatever product, BI product, the dashboards and the reports were created with. Recently, we finished and we delivered the third phase of Analytics Catalog, where we even build in a little workflow. Yeah, so you can request access to certain artifacts as a user. There's a little bit of an approval workflow in there, really answering to the questions that our customers ask to us. And I think the fourth phase that is now coming is where we are going to extend the capabilities of the artifacts itself with additional metadata that people can apply to those cards and artifacts, more background information for the end users to look at, hey, where's the source data coming from, or what is the description of this field? So that fourth phase is currently ongoing, Orla, and if I'm well informed, I think we are shipping it in QSC Q4.
Yep, absolutely. So maybe one final question to each of you. As you know, I do manage the roadmap, so I know how many features we have shipped in the last year. 2021 has been super busy. Every quarter we have jam-packed full of features. What are you excited about for 2022? And maybe, Kristian, you can go first.
So as I said before, I'm really excited about the integration of Data Warehouse Cloud and SAC going forward. This is my #1 topic. Second topic is to see a lot of, let's say, advanced analytics and planning features, that will extend the power of SAP Analytics Cloud even more, just to name a few of these. Multi-actions, a new complete flexible time dimension, innovations in the Data Explorer, Data Analyzer, and so on and so forth. Then the continuous integration enhancements for predictive planning. This is also one of my favorite topics. And last but not least, one of my favorites is also the investments into our add-in for Microsoft Office 365 to also have an Excel client along with SAP Analytics Cloud.
Great, exciting stuff. Iver?
Yeah, well, too much to mention. Well, I'm going to pick 3. One of the things I already touched upon, I've seen a glimpse of what people can expect for the cross-LOB content that is coming next year. Super exciting, super useful, and really speeding up implementation time. That is one that I like to call out, super important. And I think what Kristian just said is, for me, also a highlight. The Office 365 Live add-in that we have for Analytics Cloud, which, by the way, now also can be used towards Data Warehouse Cloud. I think that is a very exciting functionality that's coming. And for the rest, Orla, I would need, I think, probably an hour to mention them all. So I'm going to stop over here.
Well, look, thank you so much for coming here and answering these questions. I'm just going to remind people that we also have our analytics community page. So please go over there to continue the conversation. All of our experts are there waiting to answer your questions. But for now, thank you so much, Iver and Kristian. It's been amazing to have you guys here.
Thank you very much for the invite.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank
you. Yeah, and this is almost like there's plenty of more information available, a long list of sessions, so please check it out from ANA 160. This is a hands-on session, like really BTP and SAC, so that's something to check out. But I think, as Orla also mentioned, there's plenty of information on the community, and the team has done a great job on bringing that information into the community, working day in, day out in the community to answer you all the questions. So if you missed something here, take it. You have it in the SAP community. And well, I think, Orla, you could go on for another hour. We heard it from Iver. He would go on for another hour. I think next time we need to plan 2 hours.
We do, yes.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Now, so it's a big topic. You've seen it. It's also, I see it always, how popular these sessions are. big topic as well. And with that, I would like to say we're moving on to the next section.
We are.
Okay, so stay tuned and see you soon.